Okay, so for this Authortube video, this one comes from a question from one of my Facebook followers, okay? And the question is simply this: should you write every day? And this is a giantly loaded question because you're going to get a huge amount of opinion across the board from various writers and stuff. So this person was interested in my thoughts on the subject. So what I'm trying to do is I'm going to try to answer that by backing it up with some, this is why I think it's a good idea. And then you could just weigh that and see if that's you too. So here's how it is. So should you write every day? If you're on a project, my opinion is yes. I mean, I'm referring to at least, 5 out of 7. If you want to go 6 out of 7, 7 out of 7, that's up to you. But at least 5 out of 7, consider it a work week, if you will. And do it that way. And the reason for that is to keep the story going. Your subconscious is constantly coming up with stuff regarding what it is that you're writing, even if you're not aware of what your subconscious is doing. But the next day, sure enough, it does shove something forward. And that's how you kind of keep on track in terms of your work. And that part of it is just a work ethic item. And, if you kind of wait for, like some will say, well, I can't write unless I'm inspired, or the muse has to come, or pick your sort of abstract concept like that. That's fine, and I get that, because when I started, that's kind of how I did it. When I was in the zone, so to speak, that's when I would do it. And then over time, I kind of figured out that I can automatically get myself into the zone simply by going into the project. I'll read the last thing that I wrote, the last few sentences, just to get my bearings, and then all of a sudden, okay, here comes what, here's next, and we keep going. So that's my personal opinion. I think you should write every day, or at least 5 out of 7, in regards to being on a project. That ensures story momentum. That ensures anything that you might need to remember, even if you don't consciously remember it. But if it's back here, it keeps that wheel turning over and over and over again. If there's too much delay in between sessions, like I'm referring to, you write one day and then say 3 days pass, and then you do it again, and like another 3 days pass, you do it again. You start to lose track. And I've heard a lot of writers say, I got halfway through my book and then all of a sudden I lost interest. And I was like, what? How do you lose interest in your own work? Like, why did you start it if you're not interested? And to me, that reading a bit more about what happened, you find out that was the case. It was a case of, write for a bit, few days off, write for a bit, few days off, and so on. And that doesn't really work. But again, if that's, some people do that and it works and they're still productive and they, at least get a title a year or something along those lines, and that's fine. But I think to keep that momentum going and that work ethic, because this is a job, despite what people tell you, it's a job. Okay, you're putting work in and you're producing something of which you'll do business with later. So it is a job, and it needs to be taken seriously as such. And if you're the type of person who might go, well, I'm not inspired every day, or I'm not in the mood every day, I don't care. You sit down anyway, and even if it's 15, 20 minutes, try it, or what, even if you talk, if you ever talk to a therapist or a counselor, they have a challenge. It's called the 5-minute challenge. And the 5-minute challenge is this. It's for people who need motivation to do things. So the 5-minute challenge goes like this. You do it for 5 minutes, and then if you are in the zone or you want to keep going with whatever activity, any activity, you keep going. But if you're not after 5 minutes, then you leave it. And at least you could say, I put in that 5 minutes. And that's the concept of it, is to get you, that sense of accomplishment, that sense of motivation, that sense of confidence. And it's a snowball effect. It takes a little bit to get going, but eventually once that snowball starts rolling, it actually gets easier and easier and easier over time. So in short, yes, I think you do need to write every day, at least when on a project. If you're off a project, you finish your book, it's out there, whatever, take a break by all means, or you want to do a short story, at your leisure, go ahead, But if you're doing it like from a job perspective, especially if you're either supplementary or main income point of view, then you need to definitely put the work in, and you need to do that, because publishing very much is an industry of what you put in is what you get out. It really is that kind of thing. Unless you get some freak luck, it really is a case of, putting in the effort and just remembering that old saying, don't be upset by the results you didn't get from the work you didn't do. It's that simple. So yes, in short, that's my answer. And the reason is to keep the story going, to allow the brain, if you let go of the story yourself, right, let the story do the work, then you, the writer, has no problem going in and putting in whatever your session is, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour, however it is that you operate on your writing session days. So yes, I think you should. That's my answer to my Facebook follower. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. Lots of Authortube videos on the channel, so by all means, please check it out. And if you're into these kind of writing concept videos and stuff, by all means, please subscribe. We're trying to up the ante on that one, and you could help out by doing that. So thanks a lot, and we will see you on the next Authortube video or wherever else hits this channel. Peace out.